Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of High Heels to Happy Feels. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Natalie.
And this week we're going to be chatting about shadow work. Um, shadow work can be a very overwhelming topic, right? It's mysterious, it's transformative, but we're going to explore why shadow work is essential for your personal growth, how to make you more authentic. One thing that has really come to me over something I pulled actually in my card, and that was masks. And shadow work really helps us to take those masks off because how many masks are we all wearing and how many roles do we fill? I think about all the different jobs in air quotes that I play and things that I do as a partner, as a daughter, as a sister, as a business partner, as a manager in my corporate job. Um, dog mom, all these different roles, but which mask is a mirror of me? Which one is my authentic self? And how do I how do I experience different masks, right? Maybe try on a different mask. Maybe I want to wear a really pretty purple mask and try something on that's there. So, what's the best way to really delve in and get into who you are authentically? And so that's our big focus for conversation today because it's something that Natalie and I both spend a lot of time doing. Sometimes not enough, other times probably too much, and then you're really, really digging in. But it's all about unlocking your true authenticity. That word sometimes. But shadow work really allows us to confront and embrace the parts of ourselves we've suppressed or rejected. And I don't necessarily mean the things from like childhood where you say, oh my gosh, it's a suppressed memory. I mean, just crap we don't want to deal with, right? And how do we integrate those hidden aspects into our lives so that we're free of those basically chains that have held us down without maybe even realizing that they were holding us back? And that can be in any aspect of our life, our career, our personal relationships, our friendships. It could be, just meeting other people's expectations. We need to meet our own first. I think to do that, really, you've got to break those unconscious patterns. Those patterns are repeated cycles of self sabotage, negative relationships. And we all know that we have had a circle of relationships, and you keep asking why, why. If you dig in and really look at it's something in you that is drawing. Maybe you are one that is super compassionate and you are have a tendency to enable others because that's just who you are. Maybe there's a fix it mentality around it, but we have to delve into what it is about us and what makes us tick to break those unconscious patterns and really see the light, right? Nat,
Yeah, agreed. And I think, and you kind of keyed in on it, but it's healing the emotional wounds.
yeah.
So these are unresolved traumas or any other ways that shadow can sometimes manifest anxiety, anger, fear. Um, so really releasing those pent up emotions like you were talking about and getting more stable and resilience and living with inner peace. And in all of that, it enhances your self awareness. So if you can understand the triggers and the judgments and the fears and the things you've programmed into yourself and the things that your past has programmed into you, and why you feel the way you do, that allows you to have more self compassion and a nuanced understanding of how we are interacting with the world and you specifically interact with the world. So those are big things. And like you also mentioned, it's also really good for improving relationships.
Yeah.
So often, you talked about our relationships with partners or friends or career or how those things come to develop. And when you do shadow work or you're looking at shadow, it's the projections you put on those relationships. So you do this work and it's going to lead to healthier and more honest relationships, to be honest.
Yeah. And not only that, but your own personal growth,
Hmm.
right? So if you are really digging in, you're integrating your shadow and that we all have a light and a dark. The shadow is so important, and we're going to talk about that because it's important to just who we are. but to be able to transform that fear and that self-doubt about ourselves into self-acceptance and to be more confident in just who we are. I mean, that's huge for shadow work. Um, and I think that it it evolves us in another way spiritually because you are just like when you open up, right? As people say, "Oh, I'm open. I've seen it. I've seen the light. I've done these things." This is another form of that spiritual evolution into yourself because you're digging deep onto the inside. You're examining the nooks and crevices that maybe you don't like to pick at. It's not that shadow work is easy because it's not, because you've put things away and you've boxed them for a reason, but the spiritual evolution and the gift that comes from it is so empowering.
Yeah. So when you do that shadow work and you integrate all of that back, you free up all of that mental space and the emotional space and spiritual
Mhm.
energy, like you're talking about. So that allows you to bring in things that are more joyful or purposeful or meaningful to you. And it really helps you respond rather than react.
Yeah.
So, we all have those challenging triggers in our lives when your immediate response is maybe not so kind words or some hand gestures. Um, so that's definitely a reaction. You're not stopping and responding. And when you do some shadow work and you clear out some of the judgments or the fear, anxiety, the stuff that lives within that allows you really to have a more purposeful life
Yeah,
that aligns with your true values and desires. So it more meaningful, more fulfillment.
I agree. Because you're digging into the why.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
You're digging into the why do I react versus being proactive? Why do you do those things? Why do I respond that way? I guess I would say, because there's maybe some people that are listening that haven't worked in shadow work before. And so it's a term that, you hear bounced around in the industry, the spiritual world a lot is digging into shadow and doing self-reflection and doing that type of thing. Maybe you could define shadow work for us.
Yeah, and it's big in the mental health industry too. So,
Yeah.
in really simple terms, it's the hidden part of who we are. So, it's all the stuff that we've pushed away, we've tried to ignore. It's the side of us that holds our fears, insecurities, past wounds, or even unexplained or unexamined talents and desires.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a part of the personality hanging out in the background that influences our thoughts and our actions and kind of our emotions.
Oh, totally agree.
Yeah, and we all have it.
Yeah, because anger, jealousy. I mean, when we do those things, that's a reflection of ourselves. There's something else. Why are we angry? Why are we jealous? What is it about this that's making it so that this is somehow okay, right? Where this is acceptable behavior and um, this is just a way to deal with it. This is how you deal with all that and re-examine yourself.
Yeah, and I think the really important part is yeah, we can keep pushing it away, we can keep hiding it, but shadow is never going to disappear if you don't directly do something about it.
Hmm.
So this is stuff that we all have, and you've got to process through it because otherwise you're just going to stay stuck in your same old patterns and behaviors and like relationships. You wonder why you always end up with this type of girl or this type of guy. And it's a pattern that's repeating itself until you figure yourself out.
Right. Right. It is not them, it's you in this case. I mean, it's
Right.
really, yes, there's probably things everybody can work on. Don't get me wrong, we all can. But in this case, you're drawn to that and you have to examine why is that. And I think this is probably, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure, I'm sure you have stories too, but there are definitely things in my life that as I have reflected in shadow work that I say, oh, I mean, it, it's like a holy grail moment kind of thing for waking up to say, okay, I keep doing that and I keep getting this. So I have to change that in order to not get this and to get what I really want, right? It's creating that list of what do I want and what do I
Hmm.
need to change about myself to get it.
Very true. And I think it's important to align that. Like you're not going to always have those cathartic moments where you're like, oh, I need to journal on this because I need to fix this about myself.
Right.
This is stuff you really need. And that has happened recently for me. I had a 12, 13-year-old wound that I didn't even know was a wound. And I was doing the 21-day journey at Immersive Spirit, and it popped up, and I was like, holy gosh, I still have issues around this. And so but it came up in a unique way. It wasn't me going out, saying, what do I need to work on? So it keeps popping up.
The triggers, something you don't know what's going to trigger it. Sometimes it's being proactive and actually sitting down and doing the work and trying to reflect, but maybe you're not feeling it. And other times, like you said, the 21-day journey just kind of snapped you and you went, oh man, all right,
Right.
stop,
And I have
address.
done it I've done that journey for 4 years, and this is the first time this popped up, and it's a 12-year-old thing.
Yeah,
It's it's just important. It's important work. It's important work that everybody becomes their best selves. So
I
yeah.
agree. I agree. And that's the need, right? Because just like you were just saying, the only way you get out of self-sabotage situations is to do the work. Nothing comes without work. Everybody says, you got to work hard if you want to get where you want to go. You have to be the priority. If,
Hmm.
we think about our diet, the exercise, the things in our life that are about me, but you're not taking care of very, very inside, which is your other personality, so to speak, right? I mean, we each have these dark and light halves. You have to examine the dark in order to really make the light shine.
Yeah, so true. And self-sabotage, yeah, just so absolutely true. Like
Oh,
my personal ones around relationships. And when this happened long ago, and it's not really a wound, it's just things that happen. And so I thought, okay, I'll release and not worry about it. And I'm not going to have relationships again because it's just too messy. It's too mucky. And I left it at that. And then you start digging in and you're like, but I want to be loved. But and
I want
so
to share. I want to be a part of
yeah,
that.
right. And so
Yeah.
it was all of that stuff that I just kept pushing off because I had already assigned it its place. Like, I'm just not going to do this because
Hmm.
I'm just not going to deal with it. So yeah, that was a big moment.
Yeah. And that's huge. And so how do you get started? I mean, if you're thinking about, why we need it, what it is, what's the best way to get started with shadow work?
So, okay, like Steph and I were talking about, mine happened through the 21-day journey, so it like came to me.
Hmm.
Um, but if you are eager to start working on some of the shadow aspects of yourself, I think some of the best ways are the triggers that you had mentioned, Steph.
Hmm.
So, um, like you have issues with people that you work with. So if you sit down and you journal on the issues you have with someone that you're working with and identify the pieces of them that you have issues with, you take those into like journal prompts about what that is about you. So, let's say that you think that someone at work is like a narcissist. Put that mirror up and identify what's your issue with narcissist. Do you think you're a narcissist? Like
Yeah.
different ways to open it up.
And and it's fun that you say that because, and again, not necessarily a plug, but the annual journal, or not the annual, the quarterly, where, it's got every month in it and our Sabbaths and all that. But it's got a shadow work thing in there, but it's a reflection page. And one of the things I really learned in even further development, because we've always done shadow work in terms of journaling, but in terms of really taking it seriously, one prompt that really worked for me was to write down something about my partner, something about someone I love deeply, and something about a really good friend that I couldn't stand, things that I didn't like. And then I had to turn that around on myself to ask why, and is it really about me? And it was. It's not things that they were doing, it's things that I wasn't either saying out loud or contributing to, or something that I was actually doing, and that was just a reflection and I wasn't owning it. And that was acceptance. That for me was like, oh God, okay, so it's not them, it is me. And that was really hard. that was a really hard step and really something that was kind of hard to swallow because it's so much easier to blame somebody else. It is so much easier to just, toss it over the fence and say, nope, that's somebody else's and they're a blah blah blah, or they do this or they do that. And it's like, what do you do? And what are you contributing to this little half of heaven,
Yeah, it's taking ownership for your own things. It's being responsible for the way you behave and the way you react to situations. And that's really hard to do. And it reminds me, we had our full moon party last
Oh,
night.
our release party. That was fun.
Yeah, the full moon release party, which was really fun. But one of our friends, and she's been with us for a long time, great. I just love her. But anyway, she brought up a really good point is sometimes it's hard to journal because you don't even want to be honest with yourself because you don't want to read it or you don't want someone else to find it and read it.
Like,
So
what if
you
somebody finds
write in code and talk about that in that conversation.
Yeah. Well, no, and that was I loved her for bringing that up because it's
Me
like,
too.
that is so true. And the older you get, the less you care about what other people think of you. So that has made it a lot easier to just write whatever the hell I want to. But when you're younger, you're like, what if somebody finds this? What if somebody sees my diary, my journal, my whatever? How is that living authentically if your own personal thoughts that you're writing down on a piece of paper can't even reflect yourself? How is that being authentic to yourself? You have to be able to have a candid conversation and know that, guess what? If they find it when you're dead, you're dead. It doesn't matter. It doesn't,
Right?
let it go.
Or put it in the burn pile, like the full moon.
Right.
That's when we do our burns, or however you release
Exactly.
things that you're going to
However
release.
you release it, whether you trash it, shred it, burn it, whatever, but let it go. Put it out there, examine it, work with it, get rid of it. It's not yours to own anymore, right? You've
Right.
developed that. So, but I loved that. I thought it was just a killer point and a great reminder to everybody that how authentic are you really being if you're even putting your diary, your journal, or notes in code.
You won't tell yourself. Yeah.
Right? You're not
Which is
telling
okay.
yourself the truth if you're, just admit you're not ready to deal and don't waste your time or the ink, right? I mean, really, that's what it boils down to.
Right. Note it down as something that you need to get on your task list so you can take care of it, which is, so there's some good journal prompts in that. It's like, what do I judge in others?
Oh, yeah.
And what am I most afraid of expressing?
Yes.
So those will, if you start there and each thing you write, think to yourself, tell me more, or what do I mean by that? Or those good old therapy prompts that makes you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually you will find the core, the reason, the fear, the anxiety, whatever that base thing is for you, as to what brings us into your shadow existence.
Yes. And there would be teachers all over the world rejoicing as we say, you have to ask open-ended questions.
Yeah.
So these are not yes, no. I mean, you're going to figure things out and you'll get to a yes or you'll get to a no, but you've got to ask open-ended questions. What is it? And then, why is that? Tell me more. Just like Natalie was saying.
How do I feel about that?
Right, right. And you've got to cultivate awareness around that. So
and you got to get uncomfortable with it. Like, don't ask yourself the questions you know the answer to. Get uncomfortable.
You do have to get uncomfortable. Bring up tissue if you have to, because you got to sit down and get itchy with it. You just do, because you're going to be digging in, and that's the way it is.
And you are unconditionally loved. So everybody's
Yes.
allowed to cry. Don't worry about that stuff.
Nope. This is all part of the release. It's part of healing. It's the acceptance of it, and it's integrating it into your life. And it's figuring out, how does this work for me in a way that makes me feel good and it empowers you, right? It's all of this empowerment leads to being your most authentic self.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Other things that can help you identify your shadow is like mindfulness meditations, just observing your own emotions and about how you feel. Dreams. And you're a big dreamer. So
I am.
I'm sure that you've uncovered some good stuff in that too.
Oh my God. And in some of the dreams lately, holy cow. So I didn't even tell you, not this last night, although last night I had a doozy too, but the night before, It was the coolest thing. I have no idea what this thing was. It reminded me of a level. I was telling my partner about it, and it's clear and it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's like 2x4 size, right? But it's clear. And when you set, we had it sitting on the couch, and we're like, well, we have to touch it to ask it a question. I said, no, no, watch this. And so you ask it something, and this weird liquid on the inside goes all the way over for yes and all the way over for no. And I'm like, oh, cool. Well, it kind of shifts later. It becomes a cat, and the cat's name is Amethyst. And Amethyst comes over to me, which of course it was, right? Because it's crystals.
Right.
But it
Intuition.
uh-huh. Exactly. And it's just, and I'm not a cat person. I'm like, I woke up, I go, oh no, I don't care what you guys think. We are not
I
getting
can't
that
see you
with
getting a cat.
my dogs. Can you imagine an arena
No,
going on?
could eat it
No, thank you. I'm
for
sorry.
fun.
Only so much stress. But the cat came over, and his little leg, his back leg opened like a shirt sleeve, right? And he's like walking around, and I had to pull that open and get the little rocks out from under his skin. And all these little mini crystals came out. And one was carnelian and one was amethyst and all that. And I'm like, okay, right, check. Bracelets on. Got it. Got it. So I woke up in a kind of like, okay, well, that's different. We went down quite the path last night, but yeah,
It's
dreams
a
are
crystal cleanse under the full moon.
right. And it's just but they're all little things for me that I go, what is that?
Right.
No, cats are off. No, not happening. What's next? And then it's okay, got the stones. Yep, put the bracelets on. All right, got it. Yep, got amethyst, got carnelian. Those fell out. One's the cat. Okay, now what? So you got to pay attention. It's all part of it.
You do. And I think an important aspect when you're doing this work is to remember that your shadow is not your enemy, it's your
Oh,
teacher.
absolutely. Oh my God.
So
That
it's
is
keeping you on what path you need to learn and the things that you need to deal with. So don't think as like everybody has a shadow and it's not some creepy little thing that hides in the corner and attacks you.
no,
It's your teacher.
absolutely.
So other things that like there's creative outlets like painting or poetry, and this can help express your shadow and it helps you kind of embrace that. So if you are have the artistic flair, I do not. So that's not things that I would normally do, but that absolutely can help you kind of integrate and accept that shadow part of you and
Yeah,
put it out in the world to share with others and to get it out of your being as well.
absolutely. Yes, totally agree. And, the releases, like you were talking about, burning it when we're done and let it go, right? So visualizing it dissipating, visualizing how you feel when those things are not interfering in your life in some capacity, and you've embraced the new part, right? The changes that you've made, and recognizing what it was that was maybe holding you back.
Right.
Yeah. I
Yep.
think the last one's a really big one because that was where your initial college major, your first one beforehand, was working with a coach or a therapist. And so getting into mental health, because some things when you do dig in do require more. They are not just something where it's like, okay, I can just do this and fix it and I can be creative and I can do that. Sometimes it's going to require a specialist to help out. And
Yeah.
that is perfect and beautiful because it's still helping you. It's still empowering you.
Yeah, I think every day we should seek our support system, whether
Always.
that's friends or family, or you need a little additional help, which is not against the law and it's not a shame. So,
No. And that support,
what you
like
need to do.
yeah, whether that's the doctor type or
Hmm.
whether it's family type, but sometimes, and it is nothing wrong with saying today, I just need a hug. Ask for
Right.
what you want, ask for what you need. You have to do that. That's the only, there's sometimes that people are just very, very talented in looking and knowing that somebody needs something. But most of us get caught up in our own, what about me? And so you have to be able to say, I just need a hug. I just want to
Right.
sit and just be with you. I just want to have an ear to listen to, and then return the favor when they're ready for it. Yeah.
Well, and I think that also is a really good model for somebody who is living authentically. And when you're living authentically, the people around you start to feel comfortable to be their authentic selves too.
I agree.
which is
Absolutely agree.
it's kind of an outcome to all of this. And in my personal story, that relationship issue, that the 12-year whatever, um, my relationships with the opposite sex have been a lot easier because I've just been, don't even have them as friends. Don't like their coworkers, great. And of
Right.
course, my God, my dad and, um, other men in my life. But now I have easy friendships with men. And
Yeah.
I am not thinking that there's an agenda there or that there should be an outcome there. It's just kind of back to a level that we're friends in a schoolyard and it's not a big deal. And
Yeah.
I had turned it and I didn't realize I had turned it into something where I wasn't even accepting male friends just because I had my not doing that again.
Right.
So it was
You
very,
put the
very
blinders
interesting.
on and said, you know what? I don't want it's something about the gene and it's like it's not. It's something that you've just got to because yeah, it's totally changed your relationship. You have two sons. You have to be able to integrate and deal with men and they're young men now and our father and my partner and just
Right. And those were all
and
good, but
yeah.
I wasn't like coworkers. I would
Oh, you put your
talk
bubble
with
back.
them in a coworker only.
Right.
And now I've noticed that I've worked through some of this shadow work and I still have stuff coming up from it, which is fine. I'm working through it. But those relationships have become a lot easier for me.
Yeah,
And I don't think that they're looking for anything. I'm not looking for anything. There's nothing for me to fear in this relationship.
exactly.
It's just a relationship and it's fine. And so it's just changed the perspective completely.
Which is awesome. And that's like the best outcome.
It
I mean,
is.
because you have dealt with some of the emotional stuff and figuring out the baggage of what's going on.
Hmm.
You're living more authentically now because you are actually embracing those relationships beyond just the very, very black and white specific, because nothing in wife, well, nothing in life is black and white. We
Right.
all live in gray a lot because everyone's got personalities, everyone's got their own opinions, and so that creates a lot of gray. And if we are able to delve in and figure out what our black and whites are and what's acceptable and what's not, and what our gray area is, what's acceptable, what's not, that's going
Hmm.
to make your relationships so much better in that authenticity.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So it definitely increased authenticity there. And we've been doing this spiritual thing for like 30 years. I always thought I was pretty authentic when actually a lot of times I was just putting up boundaries about how I'm going to live my life.
Yes, I
Rather than
totally
I
agree.
just put up rules like, nope, you're not going to do this anymore because it
Totally
doesn't work
agree.
for you.
And it's funny because it was opening the business. If I look at that, it was opening the business that did that, that just expanded my mind in a whole new mind blown emoji kind of way because you just are like, this is off the charts. The
Right.
people we meet, the personalities we meet, gratitude for every single one, but it's just so vast and so vast. And whereas I thought I was authentic and pretty open before, now I'm like, oh, yeah, guess what? You're still working on it. And every day, right? Every single day. But every
Right.
day somebody teaches me something new too, which is just a glory. I mean, I think that's one of the best parts about what we do now with Immersive Spirit is it's just I I feel empowered every day to do something, to be more, to be better, to be more self-reflective, to make sure that I'm honoring everybody around me.
Yeah, self-aware, acceptance of your own responsibilities, acceptance of the other people that are around you, being able
Hmm.
to do that
Hmm.
and being able to accept that relationship to them. I mean, not that you have a relationship with everybody, but the interactions
Yeah.
between them.
Yeah,
It's a lot of emotional intelligence and being able to have deeper relationships.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And it all ultimately leads to your spiritual evolution.
For real.
I mean, the more we are physically here and physically aware and all of those, it is not going to hurt your spiritual practice, right? So you can see the headlight or something reflecting back there. Interesting.
Yeah, your spirituality definitely expands
Yeah, it
and
does.
and, and tolerance and like everything just kind of
Hmm.
Everybody's got to do shadow work all the time.
I know, I know. So, okay, so as we're wrapping this and kind of thinking about all that,
Hmm.
l- let's be thinking about what, we know what we love to do. What are some great practical tools or advice that we would share with everybody, exercises that they can use to go out and start or work on their own shadow work? And there's so many different ways to do it. These are just a few ideas.
Yeah, so I think those journal prompts that I mentioned, like
Hmm.
kind of at the open of the show or somewhere near the open, those are really good.
Yeah,
Uh, Anything that challenges yourself emotionally,
yeah,
the uncomfortable stuff we talked about, like get uncomfortable with yourself.
yeah. And doing it, and if you can get into a cadence of doing it daily,
Hmm.
that's awesome. Maybe while you're doing your gratitudes in the morning, you spend a little moment, spend a moment reflecting on something that challenged you the day before emotionally, so that really charged you, and ask yourself why. And dig into that a little bit. So who'd you flip off driving down the road? Who and why? And did you really hear that? Was the reaction that you thought you had from somebody where you thought it came to you in anger? Was it? Or were you just in a really wound up space shopping for presents this season and you took it that way? And it meant absolutely nothing to the person you thought you received that from.
Right.
But, if you can kind of incorporate that into part of your daily practice somehow, you'll need it less. Number
Hmm.
one, it won't become a daily practice because the day before you'll be like, oh, good day, right? Score. Chalk one up for a really good day. I smiled at everybody and I'm feeling pretty good and nothing's pissing me off. And yeah,
Those are few and far between, though. Like if you keep a
they
feeling
are.
journal,
They are.
like yeah, like I said, we've been doing this for a really long time, and
And there's still
there,
surprises. Yeah.
well, and there's people that surprise you. Like,
Yes.
you tell somebody something and someone else comes and tells you that back to your face or asks you why, and you're like, wow, I trusted that person and
And
they're a
why did
gossipy person.
yeah.
But, and so how do I feel about that? So that opens up to there's always going to be something
Yes.
that you can dig deeper into.
That is very, very true. And there will be things that come back to surprise you. I
Always.
mean, that's been one that I've been dealing with that I talked to you about, and I won't get into the personals of it because it is very personal. Um, but it was extremely eye-opening for me, and it is from 38 years ago. But it was a giant realization about entire portion of my life, decades of my life, and how I reacted or acted in certain situations, and exactly where that has led me to today. So there will be things that just come up. And it wasn't like, I mean, yes, it was traumatic. I'm not going to say that it wasn't traumatic, but it wasn't like it was something that was hidden or that I wasn't aware of. I know it. I know what happened. I was, I all of that is very much real, but it was the other impacts on what it has done to me over time that I didn't deal with, that now it's not the fallout. I'm incredibly grateful. It has surfaced something that has brought up a whole separate conversation and has made me very self-aware and is taking me down a new path, which is so exciting. And I'm very, very excited about that. But it hit me like a truck. It was just one of those, and it was doing shadow work, but I wasn't journaling and I wasn't doing anything like that. I was just kind of sitting with, why? Why is this? Why is this? And it was going to bed one night and I'm like, holy shit, I know what it is. Oh, that was an OMG moment because that was then another conversation, which led to another. And again, another mind blowing moment. So,
Yeah, but that's covers those key parts that we've talked about, that shadow is always going to bring it back to you.
yes,
It's never going to not be there until you've dealt with it. And now that you're aware, and it was such a huge part of your life, but now you can start to deal with it and take those perspectives back over time
yeah.
and
And
move on from it.
alter
And
it.
that's going to be a journey.
Oh, but just being able to alter and chart my
Mhm.
own course right?
Right.
And not let something that is decades old, that was a splash in a moment in time, dictate any of my other outcomes. And not even recognizing how those had dictated my outcomes for so long. I mean, like Nat said, it's not like we haven't been doing this a long time, but you just, at the moment, it's like, no, I dealt with it. I'm good. I'm good. And it's not even the emotional part of not dealing with that. It's something else. But that's the point. I had emotionally dealt with it. The physical part was all dealt with. That was all good. It was this nudging piece about what I was expecting from others and what I thought they were expecting from me that I had not dealt with. And that's the part that hit me in this, right smack in the forehead. So, but it's good stuff. Good stuff. It will always come around. Yeah.
And once you do start dealing with this and acknowledging and embracing all of the shadow, it's like it's great to have a ceremony around.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Throw a ritual on that sucker. You bet.
right? Like deal with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
However that comes to you. Like Stephanie and I, we told you we do burn releases. I mean, you can bury it, you can look up multiple rituals about how to release stuff. And we burn safely in fire pits away from trees, like not
Yes.
by houses,
Yes. Yes.
all of that stuff. So don't come at us with that.
No.
Uh, but just having a process that you are allowed to write freely, or you're allowed to be freely, you're allowed to process freely, and then you're allowed to burn it and not let it be a part of you again.
And if you're not in a place where you can burn it, you're in the city or something, paper shredders are fan freaking
Or
tastic.
tear it up.
Tear it into a million little pieces and
Yeah.
yeah, blow it in your trash can, right? However it makes you feel good, but let it go. Let it go. Give it back to the universe. You don't own it anymore. It's not yours.
And then the other part of it is to accept it back, that you accept all yourself back with love and self compassion. So you're accepting that part of your shadow you have dealt with, you have learned, you know how you're going to progress forward. You have let it go,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still part of you.
Yes.
There's a lot of acceptance, which can be really a tough thing to do because it doesn't leave your path, it doesn't leave your history of who you
Right.
are.
Right. And it's not about being stuck up or that type of thing. This is self-awareness. This is
Right.
this self-confidence is not, oh, look, I'm so pretty. It is, oh, look, I've freaking evolved. I learned from this. I have lessons, and these are things that I have developed about myself. Yay me. And that should be celebrated. Just like big victories on a scale or, getting that new job or buying your first house or whatever it is, when we accomplish those things in our lives that are big self-development moments, you're damn right we should celebrate them. Absolutely own it and enjoy it. And if there's people and getting people in community, if you're in a coven, if you are in a spiritual group, if your family's really tight, if it's something,
Go to church, however
go
that
to
works. Yeah.
church, yeah, whatever it is, celebrate it with them. People appreciate sharing milestones. You'd be surprised how many people will embrace, and not everything you want to share vocally, but lots of things we do.
Well,
And
and if you don't want to share those vocally, know that Steph and I are clapping for you because I said this, I think it was earlier in a social media post, maybe this week or earlier, but I've had this like realization recently that when babies learn to walk, every little step they take, we celebrate, even when they fall, even when they fail, even when they hit their head.
yep,
Like, yay, but that's because they took that step. Or maybe even I even mentioned it in a podcast recently. I don't know.
I don't remember that one, but yeah, it's true because we celebrate when dogs quit peeing in the house. They go outside and go potty. You're like, woo,
Woohoo!
dog, get a snack, right?
So we're clapping for you.
Yeah.
Trust us.
But you're not a dog or a baby. But yes, we are
No.
totally applauding you. We totally are, you got this, and it's yay. And if you want to share it with us, email us. Fine, we'll share it with you all day long.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. And then affirming it, right?
Yep.
That's part of your celebration.
Bring that back, accept it back into yourself. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Accept it. It's all mine. Yay, I'm me and I've grown. So let's is there anything else you want to add to that list?
I don't think so. I think We covered quite a broad swath.
I know. And but shadow work is big. It's big for everybody. And, it seems small and people just kind of ditch it. Oh, it's just shadow work. It's just journaling. And it's like, oh, it might be a little more than that. And it can be very complex. But
Mhm.
just remember, it's not about fixing what's broken. It's discovering who you are as a whole. So this is a journey of courage and compassion, but it's self-compassion. It's compassion for yourself. So, um, we want to encourage you to do your shadow work, to inspire others to do the same, to remember to celebrate those victories, be a part of the celebration for somebody else if they want to include you in that, because it's a win and it's just positive energy that is being put in the world. The more we're sharing and giving and participating in each other's lives, the more we're advocating for each other, the better we feel. And the better that is for our own self empowerment and our own authenticity as to who we are when we're showing up for others as well. So,
Be
yeah,
authentic. Allow
be
others to be
authentic.
authentic with you.
Be authentic. Yes. And we would love to have you join us in social media and the conversations. All the links are listed, right? You can find those in the podcast details. If you just don't feel like you've got anybody to celebrate with any for reason, please do email us, right? Reach out to us or hit the let's connect on our webpage at immersivespirit.com, or there's a little chat there, and if we're online at the moment, heck yeah, we'll chat you up. You betcha. We love this stuff. So please do. We've got some upcoming workshops. So after the new year, we have, of course, well, December 29th, we have our new moon, and we will be doing our intentions for that new moon. So that one's coming. Of course, we'll have our full moon. It'll be our second. This was our first one, but we had a blast. We had a full moon release party. And this one, we did some yoga laughs, which was a riot with our group. Oh my God. I don't, I don't think anybody
It
was
was
able to
fun.
breathe. We just laughed pretty hard, but it was a good time. And there's that one. We have a psychic development class or a workshop coming up next month. Another one. We're doing those monthly remote viewing. If you want to jump in and practice your remote viewing skills, we'll have that coming. And our beginning astrology to help develop your intuition. We did our, I don't want to say test, but we had our initial kickoff with Bo Maxwell's group on the Sage Circle as Sage Circle members ourselves as still, and we love that group. And it was very well received. We really had a really great time, and are anxious to get that shared on our community as well. So there will be more details coming on that. Did I miss anything, Natalie?
Tarot is coming. I don't know if it's going to be January, but then we'll also have a related workshop with that, but that's probably not until February.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Our tarot, we'll have a tarot course offering so you can dig into tarot a little more beyond just um I think, we like to get in the weeds on stuff, I think, as everybody knows. So it'll be beyond just most of the things that you see. And then we'll have our tarot tales and truths. Tales or truths?
Truths and tales or tales and truths, something like that.
Tales and truths. Yeah, that's the workshop. So that'll probably be February, just based on when
Yeah.
we get the offering out for tarot.
Yeah.
We'll also have a full offering coming out on crystals and using crystals to develop your intuition, and using in lunar cycles, a little history, things like that. So using them in the Sabbats, but it's just a whole thing around crystals. No workshop there, but we'll have the offering out hopefully soon as well.
Well, the
And
workshop there is community, ask questions. Anyway, we're
yep,
we're getting too far in the weeds.
there's so much, right? We just stay tuned. Join us on immersivespirit.com. We have a free community. Our paid members in our IS Town Square, which is Immersive Spirit Town Square. All the workshops are included if you're a paid member, so you're obviously saving a lot of
And
bones that way,
50% off courses
and
too.
50% off our
Yeah.
course offerings. So it's huge for that $7 a month.
Oh,
My
and if you need a great journal to start off your year, we have a downloadable. I think it's like $15 to download. If you print it, like it has to be paid through the printer and like all
Yeah.
of that. So that's shipping too. So I think it's like $40 if you want the printed copy, but it's really pretty and quite
Oh,
cool. But you can
it's
download it for $15.
I have mine here. I love this. This is the
Yay.
printed copy. I love this thing. But this is the first quarter. And so it's got all of your different dates and, like I said, all the Sabbats. Yeah, so there's a little plug on that. But go out and grab that because obviously January 1st is just around the corner. And we went with calendar year in this one, even though it's got the Sabbat information in it. So
Yeah, just let us help you find your magic. Develop your magic.
develop your magic. Yes.
Lead your soul-led life.
Woo! All right. I think with that, we're a wrap. So thank you again for joining us on High Heels to Happy Feels. Remember, your shadow is not a burden. And I took this little quote because I loved it. It's a bridge to your most authentic, empowered self. Until next time, take care. We'll see you next week.